Teams in any sport to basically come out of nowhere and become a contender when most felt you wouldn't be one, you're going to need some things to break right. You need some people in positional groups to step up. And we're going to talk about just what would happen in each positional group and who would need to step up for the Browns to find a way to contend here in 2025. Browns 3D and the OBR begins now. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound Browns, 3D on the OBR streaming network. Appreciate all of you who support us here at the OBR, whether it is reading the written content produced daily by our fantastic group of writers, or joining us every evening at 6 p.m. with Browns 3D kicking off the OBR streaming network. You will have Barry McBride and Fred Greetham today on Wednesday for OBR Weekly, so make sure you stick around at 7 o'clock for the boys. Make sure, of course, that you're subscribed to the OBR on YouTube and you're subscribed to the OBR over on Twitch. We've had our first little hiccup with Shedeur Sanders. Apparently, Shedeur Sanders was pulled over late Monday evening, early Tuesday morning, driving at 101 miles an hour. Again, not good. Never want to do it. But, issued a citation, and that will play its course. We've certainly gone through this in the past with some of the Cleveland Browns players. Let's just hope everybody can kind of stay safe on the roads, of course. Training camp. Rookies will report to training camp for 2025 on July 18th, which means the rookies are in town helping this week with the youth camp. So they will get about a month of free time. The veterans will report to training camp on July 22nd, meaning with minicamp ending last week, your veterans will get about a 5-week break before it all comes to fruition and the 2025 season essentially is officially underway with the beginning of Cleveland Browns training camp. Now, any team this time of year can be considered a contender. And I know the way it's written, the way it's covered, obviously, there are certain teams that become a consensus that they are not going to be a team that contends in a certain season. Usually every year we probably get, one team that kind of surprised the masses and played above their heads, achieved more than people were expecting them to achieve. So we're going to go through each positional group on the offensive side of the defensive side of the ball here and try to figure out and identify just who these players would be that could take a season that many feel will not be very promising for the Cleveland Browns and make it just that. Certainly, we'll start at the quarterback position. And, this could go one of two ways. And I've been on the record here for quite a while that, of the veteran group, if you think there's one that can help the Cleveland Browns contend in 2025, it's Joe Flacco. Number one, we have proof. Joe was here 2 seasons ago and certainly led this team on a magical run. His strengths kind of fit what Coach Stefanski's looking for. The ability to throw the deep ball with accuracy, still has the laser strong arm, even at 40 years old. If many other things break right, you could maybe get one more magical run out of Joe Flacco. Of course, you have to be realistic and understand with Joe's age, it's a strong possibility that even if the started hot and the team started hot collectively, it would be really difficult to fathom that a 40-year-old quarterback can give you a 17-game regular season and then possibly even playoffs. But of the 2 veteran quarterbacks currently with the Cleveland Browns, it's certainly Joe Flacco. Now, when you look at the 2 rookies, and, again, I am well on record here, I think the more promising of the 2 is Shedeur Sanders. I don't know how much weight I put into Albert Breer's thinking that Shedeur was basically behind Dylan Gabriel. I'm not sure how much credence I'm going to give to that. That could also have been a team fit specific type of thing where maybe there were some teams that were doing some things that maybe they just weren't doing at Colorado. I don't know if that's necessarily the case for what, the Cleveland Browns, offense is. And, that Shedeur would basically be coming in here behind. Did Colorado kind of simplify the way they did things because they just had no pass protection? Certainly did. They also didn't have any threat of a running game. These are all facts. These are all true, of course. So, I don't buy the big narrative, that Shedeur Sanders is technically, behind an 8 ball, so to speak. Shedeur Sanders, and again, I've spoken on this and I will continue to speak on this. This is the guy to monitor. This is the guy to watch at the quarterback position for the Cleveland Browns in 2025. I don't believe Dylan Gabriel is going to give you anything on the field this year that is going to possibly talk you out of spending one of your first round picks next April on a quarterback. Kenny Pickett does not have a contract after this season, will be a free agent. Joe Flacco, again, 1-year deal, 40 years old. This is all about Shedeur Sanders, and Shedeur Sanders is certainly the guy that you would pinpoint here to possibly be the guy in this quarterback room in the 2025 season. What Shedeur can do throwing of the ball is up there with what you have as far as expectations of what your quarterback is going to be able to give you. And I don't question that Shedeur still needs work, still needs time. I don't think when I say still needs work, still needs time is anything that's going to hold him off from playing. I don't think NFL game speed is going to be all that different for Shedeur Sanders. He certainly played with an accomplished college wide receiver, so it's not like the wide receivers in the NFL are going to be playing at any faster rate than Travis Hunter was. Shedeur is the most promising of what is here. And that would, for me, not necessarily mean just 2025, but certainly would mean, a future and possibly being the quarterback of the future. Again, we don't know how much it will take for Shedeur or even Gabriel, if it ends up going that route, to hold this team off from investing heavily in a quarterback in next April's draft. But I think Shedeur gives you the most legitimate chance of anybody there, and certainly of the two rookies, to do just that. He certainly worked hard and worked well to this point. Training camp, we will see if the Browns start to put a little bit more on his plate. Joint practices, of course, preseason games, of course, where I think Shedeur will probably take more reps than anybody, which would make the most sense, obviously. But if you're talking about, who is going to be the one that could change the narrative of the 2025 Cleveland Browns season, it certainly would be Shedeur Sanders. Now, as far as the running back room, I mean, this one's probably pretty cut and dry. And with the Browns, we've never seen him spend a selection this high under the Barry and Stefanski regime on a running back. But of course, second round selection, Quinshon Judkins was the pick with the Cleveland Browns with their second of 2 second-round picks in this past draft. Judkins, along with TreVeyon Henderson, they were a dynamic and perfectly built, in my opinion, running back tandem out for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, Judkins, with, the Browns going to most likely going back to the heavy, more wide zone concept, I don't have any, doubts that Quinshon Judkins should fit into that system and be successful within that system. And the thing that's kind of key to it, and it was something that you certainly saw with Nick Chubb and his success within the system, is being able to just run hard, run strong off that one cut and go. Because the way the offense works is most of the time you're having linebackers getting their best attempt at bringing down would-be ball carriers with arm tackles. And, Quinshon Judkins, as much as he proved his athleticism at the combine, the tape proves the physical style that he can run with. I refer to guys like him as a bumper car running back. Guys who just seem to just roll off contact, just seem to bounce off contact, run through contact without losing much to any momentum whatsoever. Quinshon Judkins should be a special fit here with the Browns. And I don't know if the workload is going to be super heavy in 2025. I think a lot of that will be dictated, by the Browns record. Of course, are they in games? Are they not in games? As far as, whether or not they can just stick to the true plan of offense, which is probably to get closer to a 50-50 balance of running and throwing the football. But Quinshon Judkins should be, a very productive player for the Browns, even as a rookie, and certainly justify their selection of Judkins early in the second round. The wide receiver room, and I think it's pretty simple. It comes down to Cedric Tillman. I mean, look, there was a 3-game stretch last year for Cedric Tillman in his second year where he had 7 receptions for 95 yards and a touchdown. Really started to come on, really started to play consistent each and every week. As we all know, the injury in week 9 derailed the rest of his, 2024 regular season in what would have been a really, really big opportunity, in my opinion, for Judkins for Cedric Tillman, because it would have just a lot more targets, a lot more opportunities to just get better. Unfortunately, it turned out the way it did. There's certainly, again, some pause and hesitation as far as what you think Cedric Tillman can give you. Missed a really good amount of time in 2022, his final year at Tennessee. Missed a small amount of time in 2023 as a rookie with the Browns, and of course, missed significant time again last year in 2024 with the Cleveland Browns. But you're looking at the Cleveland Browns wide receiver room, and one guy who is on the roster right now who could be the guy that makes the ultimate difference within that room as a whole. Of course, the answer to that question is Cedric Tillman. Talking about the tight ends, and I think, I think it would be popular to put Harold Fannon's name here as the guy. But when we are talking about, a third round selection who played in the MAC, I don't want to put that much pressure on Harold Fannin. What is maybe a realistic statistical output for Harold Fannin in year 1? Maybe 30 receptions, somewhere in that range, I would say. And, with the talk and the understanding that Harold Fannin could line up as a big wide receiver, could line up as an outside wide receiver, could line up as a big slot, H-back, fullback, all of these things, it's certainly going to, I don't want to say slow him down, but it's going to be hard to believe that, Fannin's going to find a way to succeed in each and every role right off the bat as a 20-year-old rookie, soon to be 21. So, you don't want to put that much pressure on a guy like Harold Fannin. So it goes to David Njoku. And, certainly was a tougher year in 2024 for David Njoku than it was in 2023. I think more regular, consistent quarterback play, a return to health. We will get more David Njoku from 2023 than you will get in 2024. Chief is still the top dog in the Cleveland Browns tight end room. And as we've mentioned many, many times, David Njoku is a huge key for the Cleveland Browns, because when the Cleveland Browns can get David Njoku a regular workload, keep him regularly involved, it makes the Cleveland Browns offense a much more difficult unit to overall defend, because in Njoku, again, linebackers underneath, safeties over the top, he is a mismatch for whichever way you are going to try to stop him. Offensive line, it's certainly DeJuan Jones, and it's certainly one reason is because it is the left tackle position and, the most important offensive line position in the NFL. And it's also because for Jones, this is an opportunity, hopefully this year and next year, for the Browns to basically get a player at a premium position and not have to pay a premium number. DeJuan Jones still in year 3 of his rookie contract, still has year 4 next year. And the Cleveland Browns are going to give him every opportunity to prove that he can be a long-term left tackle in the NFL. Jones has put in the work. He has kept his weight at a respectable number, a number that the Cleveland Browns are comfortable with him, hovering right around at. He's made the commitment to his diet, understanding how important his body is to his success, to team success, his own monetary success. So for Cleveland, who's most likely, going to have some major offensive line changes beginning once the 2025 season ends, I think it would really, really be a big feather in the cap, so to speak, for the Cleveland Browns if DeJuan Jones can give them one less thing to worry about in the offseason following the 2025 season by nailing down the left tackle position. Again, make sure you stick around 7 p.m. Eastern tonight. Barry McBride and, of course, Fred Greetham with OBR Weekly. Switching over to the defensive side of the ball, trying to establish, the most important players at each positional group for the Cleveland Browns in 2025 and what could hopefully lead between these players, taking the team from an afterthought from most media to end up being a legit contender in the 2025 season. I'm not going to put the pressure on Mason Graham right off the bat because I think what Mason Graham will bring this team in 2025 will certainly be an asset. This team struggled mightily against the run in the 2024 season. But I think what second year defensive tackle Mike Hall Jr. can bring to this team perhaps would be even more important. One of the things the Browns saw and truly liked and became enamored with in Mike Hall Jr.'s tape at Ohio State was his ability to get into the backfield and after the quarterback. He has very good interior pass rush skills. Mike has always been a very plus athlete going back to his days at Streetsboro High School. It could be a slower start to the 2025 season for Mike Hall Jr., and the Browns haven't really spilled the tea on that as far as just when we think we are going to get the opportunity to see Mike Hall here in 2025. And I'm sure we'll learn more as we get closer to training camp or maybe even the beginning of training camp and see maybe what designation Mike Hall comes into training camp with as far as injury. But Mike Hall certainly is the guy from the interior group of defenders that I think can be the biggest difference maker in 2025. If the Browns can get the interior pressure from Mike Hall that they envisioned when they originally drafted him, that would obviously just make things go very, very well for the defensive unit overall, because we all know what's coming on the outside. Now, in trying to match the abilities of Myles Garrett to look at the other defensive ends on this roster, first off, just don't. Not everybody is Myles Garrett. And when you say unicorn, it is truly meant unicorn. He is truly one of a kind. There's just no way about it. But you look at some players who were on this roster at the defensive end position. And, as much as I'm a fan of Alex Wright, I'm really excited to see what Shainka can do. Joe Tryon Shainka coming over from Tampa Bay, and Agbo still kind of in the fold. It certainly would be what third-year defensive end Isiah Mcguire can do. Isiah is proven to be a very solid and reliable run defender. But what could really have Mcguire kind of find his way to separate from the rest of the other defensive ends, not named Myles Garrett, would be to, have these pass rush numbers go up, have his pass rush win rate go up, and just kind of develop a little bit more overall consistency in his pass rush. Now, certainly not the easiest thing to ask of Mcguire. His athletic testing when he was coming out of Missouri was not anything that was just going to blow your mind. But the tape was good. And I think the thing that has really kind of been noticeable with Mcguire in his first 2 years here with the Browns is once he starts to get a little bit of taste of success, it seems that you start to see Mcguire's play go up and up. And that is certainly something that we've been noticing and been watching with in his development as far as a run defender on the edge. He's going to get the opportunity. I don't see a way that Mcguire is not the starting D end. There may be times where he is rotated out for obvious passing situations, or he is part of maybe more than two edge players on the field in pass rush situations. But if Mcguire can remain consistent as he is in his run defense, it's just going to keep him on the field longer. It will obviously give him the opportunity for more pass rush reps, which hopefully will lead to success. If Mike Hall can get business done on the interior, Myles Garrett can wreak havoc on the other side. There is an opportunity here for a pass rusher on the other side to succeed within this. And for Isiah Mcguire, this is going to be the ultimate, tell of the tale on whether or not Mcguire ends up being resigned here in Cleveland to a long-term deal. Now, the linebacker position here for 2025. Many people were surprised when the Cleveland Browns made Carson Schlesinger their second round pick 33 overall in this past year's draft. Obviously, as the next weeks went on, we learned, the ultimate fate of Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, that he will not be playing in the 2025 season. It certainly gave the pick a little bit more understanding as to why the selection was made. But now it's a pressure situation for Carson Schlesinger. Carson Schlesinger is going to be expected to compete and produce pretty much from day one. And for Schlesinger, whose first 2 years at UCLA were quiet, relegated mostly to special teams, then the UCLA Bruins kind of moved a couple of guys around on defense to create the opening for Carson Schlesinger to get the playing time he was richly hoping for. Schlesinger did everything and then some, and was probably one of the top linebackers in all of college football, leading the nation in tackles. The Browns are going to need Carson Schlesinger to hit the ground running because JOK had become such a valuable piece to their defense in almost everything that he did. Losing him and trying to replace him with players who just don't have the ceiling of a Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is going to be a big downfall overall for this defense. Carson Schlesinger could very well go out and give you exactly what you're missing from Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, which certainly could make for some fun conversations in 26 and 27 if JOK does come back 100%. But Carson Schlesinger, and again, the collegiate film, whether it was, in the, whether it was, coverage, whether it was run defense, whether it was his blitzing ability and, getting after the quarterback, everything really came to fruition for Carson Schlesinger in the fall of 2024. The Cleveland Browns need it now to all come to fruition for them in 2025. The cornerback room. And we've talked about it a bunch, and it's definitely a weird dynamic where your number two cornerback, Martin Emerson Jr., and your nickel, Greg Newsome, as well, are both on contract years. So both of these guys are, they're not just playing, for their future in Cleveland. They're playing for their future, period. Both players were not as good in 2024 as they were in 2023. So I'm actually going to put kind of both of them here on the spot here. If Greg Newsome and Martin Emerson can both play more like they did in 2023, all of a sudden, this cornerback group after Denzel Ward doesn't look as questionable as it sometimes does to others. These guys need to step up. They need to play well. They need to produce. And it's not just necessarily for the sake of the Cleveland Browns. in this 2025 season that these guys step up and produce, it's also for the sake of them and their long-term fortune and standing within the NFL as well. The safety position, and it could not break for Ronnie Hickman the way he's going to hope this season breaks for him. There are some veterans here with Cleveland that could certainly become a nuisance into eating up some of the playing time that Ronnie Hickman is hoping is all his. But there were some flashes when he was forced into duty as a rookie. At times, up and down play when he got a little bit more bigger piece of the pie in the 2024 season. But it is not an unrealistic expectation that a former, once undrafted free agent all of a sudden becomes a guy that now holds down a starting job within the NFL. His defensive coordinator now, this will be his third season with him. So Ronnie Hickman knows this, defense knows it well. Ronnie Hickman certainly played at Ohio State. Ronnie Hickman is no stranger to top competition, top talent, going against tough quarterbacks. So for Ronnie Hickman, the opportunity is there to be seized by him. And for Ronnie Hickman, as an undrafted free agent, to get this opportunity to most likely be the starting free safety for this Cleveland Browns team, and it's key because you want Grant Delpit to be within, 5 to 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. It's just where Grant Delpit makes his hay. So you don't want to have to alter Grant Delpit from doing that. But the opportunity is certainly there. And Ronnie Hickman, through patience, through hard work, and everything he's done over the last 2 seasons, there is this golden opportunity in front of him. And Ronnie Hickman needs to go up and seize this opportunity. It's not easy, for teams to make a big run in the NFL the way it is in some other sports. But again, you never know the way it can work. Hey, teams deal with injuries each and every year. There's going to be some teams within the AFC whose fortunes are not necessarily going to go the way they wanted them to due to the injury bug, which opens up the opportunity for, people on the outside to basically get on the inside. And, whether it is with the players and the positions that we have mentioned here and discussed here in this episode, it's time for all these guys, to take a step. And for the Browns, who are trying to essentially get younger and a little bit cheaper on this roster, it doesn't necessarily mean that this team cannot be successful. It's going to take a lot of things strung together for it to go that way. But it is not completely out of the realm. Whether it's a Shedeur Sanders, whether it's a Quinshon Judkins, whether it's a Cedric Tillman, whether it's a David Njoku, a DeJuan Jones, a Mike Hall Jr., an Isiah Mcguire, a Carson Swessinger, Emerson Newsom, and Ronnie Hickman. If these guys all, and it's not too much to ask that all these guys' games start to pick up now within the NFL, it could ultimately, hold the fate of the success of the 2025 Cleveland Browns. Looking forward to it. Still have about a month to go, of course, before we still get some training camp news. We're going to just come here and just pump out conversations about the Cleveland Browns like we do day in, day out. The writers here at the OBR are going to bust their butts and give you some of the best written content on the Cleveland Browns you're ever going to get your eyes on. It's what we do. And we're going to continue to, push out great content because all of you come here every day and that's what you expect from us. And we appreciate all of you for coming out, reading the written content every single day, joining us on the OBR streaming network every evening, beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern with Browns 3D, hosted by myself, Jeff Lloyd. 7 o'clock this evening, you will get Barry McBride and Fred Greetham with OBR Weekly. Make sure you show up and listen to the gentlemen. I'm sure between Barry and Fred, they got some great nuggets for you. Make sure you are subscribed to the OBR over on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to the OBR over on Twitch as well. This has been your daily delivery Three of all things Dog Pound. Browns 3D on the OBR, and we will talk to y'all tomorrow.